Greetings, friends, to anyone who is tuning in currently. Looks like maybe one person. And to anybody who tunes in the future. I am here for an hour offering free horary astrology, which is basically like using tarot, using astrology as one would use tarot. And yeah, it's like a question-based form of astrology. So I welcome your questions. Feel free to ask anything. If you're interested in having a natal chart reading, there's a form you can sign up, and that is a 30-minute deal. Once I get willing participants to come on for a free natal chart reading for 30 minutes, I'll end up splitting the hour, 30 minutes for natal readings, and then the rest for horary and tarot. So, but for this hour, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Eventually, I'll have the live stream interface more down, and you could bring your voice on. It's always fun to have more dynamic interaction. The chat's always a little delayed. But yeah, in the meantime, I used to do a weekly live stream of Rudolf Steiner's Calendar of the Soul. I would read the verse for the week, which is the Calendar of the Soul is a book of verses, a book of poetic verses designed to attune our souls to the spiritual process of the year, the light cycle. And I thought, like, getting back into live streaming, that it would be an appropriate way to begin with the verses of the week, because tropical astrology, which is what I am working in, Hellenistic astrology, is based on the tropical, or on the light cycle as experienced from the northern hemisphere. So I'll just share that, and I'm going to share this video of the lemniscate that the sun traces throughout the sky over the course of a year, so you get a sense for what this book of verses is focusing on. And we're in that process of descending into the darkness after reaching the very zenith of summer solstice. So we reach the darkest point at winter solstice. So here's the path of the sun, and now I'll read the verse to officially open the space. So we're at week 18, and I translated it from Steiner's German as follows. Can I make wide my soul so that it grows together with word of worlds in seed conceived? My intuition speaks the need for strength to shape my soul worthy, to make of it a vessel for the Spirit. Doesn't look like there's any viewers currently, so I can just sort of, in the meantime, share some things I've noticed about the chart of the moment. And, well, first of all, I was once sharing with a friend the idea of working events as an astrologer, where I would doing horary instead of natal chart readings. We could do natal chart readings, but horary is fun. And my friend was like, well, how would you do that if you're going to have like a bunch of charts that are very similar, if it's like within 1 hour for all the same people? One response to that would be, well, they're ideally asking different questions, right? Some of them may be asking relationship questions or career questions. We might get some similar questions, but there's enough houses, in a chart for an hour that it might not be an issue. But last week, it didn't seem to be an issue. But in order to just complexify it a little more, I had the idea of like, well, I'll just include the bound rulers, the Egyptian bound rulers, which are on the outer edge, one in from the wheel of the signs. And the bound rulers, one way of understanding what they signify in the chart when a planet is in a particular bound, as I've learned it, is that the bound ruler is sort of overseeing the karmic allotment that the planet within its bound is promised. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be giving horary readings for an hour, if I include the bounds, then the ascendant will pass through almost all the bounds within an hour. So that helps to complexify the situation a bit more. And additionally, I thought, well, if I get two people asking about a relationship question, then I'll just draw a tarot card for each of them, and that will individualize the reading even further if it's necessary. But I think it might be just fun to pull tarot cards anyway. And I pulled the star. This is the Aleister Crowley deck, which I feel a bit like ambivalent about. I like some of the images. I don't think he designed the images, but some of the images are very dramatic and dark compared to the traditional tarot, or they just feel like more loaded, even though there's definitely some cards in the traditional tarot that are intense. More so among the minor arcana is what I was like kind of bothered by. But anyway, I pulled a star. I love this card in this deck. It's so pretty. The deck is very kind of Art Nouveau, I would say. And the star typically has this signification of like hope and kind of wish fulfillment, and maybe even some kind of alignment with the course of cosmic providence. And when I was reflecting on the chart of the moment, I noticed that, greetings, friend. If you have a horary question, which is basically like using astrology, like you use tarot, it could be the same kind of question you would ask the tarot deck. Feel free to put it in the chat, and I will work with it. I was just describing what I am seeing in the chart of the moment for 6 o'clock, which is when I set 6 o'clock Central European time, which is when I plan these live streams for. Looking at the chart that you see to my left, it's my right actually. But I was just starting to reflect upon the chart, waiting for friends to show up with questions, and you see that the ascendant, I'll pull this up if I can even. Yeah, the ascendant to the left, the arrow pointing to the left, is in Capricorn, and it will be at this hour for the rest of the month. But it's in the bound of Mercury, so to get a sense for, like the flavor of the moment, just kind of interpreting this chart, we look to Mercury to kind of get a more complex understanding of how the ruler of the ascendant, Saturn, fallen in Aries in the second house, is doing. And Mercury is now morning star, is enjoying this stronger position than it had when it was combust with the sun, under the beams of the sun. And the moon, which is important in horary astrology for kind of getting a sense for the emotional condition of the querent, or the person asking the question. But interestingly, this month, it also rules the 7th house. So, as the astrologer asking about the chart. Hi, Soretta. Yeah, of course. Would you like to give me a bit more specific information, and then we can start to interpret? What is it that how would you, as specifically and concretely as you can, how would you phrase your question about guidance in love? Is there a particular person? Is it more about sort of you and anything that you might want to work on? Or, yeah, I think you probably get what I mean. So if you can specify the question a bit more, then I'll cast I'll cast the chart for the moment that I understand more fully the question you're asking, then we'll get going with an interpretation. I'll start shuffling the deck of tarot cards in the meantime. So if you're not familiar, Soretta, horary astrology is a form of astrology where you ask a question and it is interpreted according to the chart of the moment that the astrologer understands the question that was asked. And it's cast for the astrologer's location. So that's what I'm doing here. If you're interested in a natal reading, like a birth chart reading, there's a form you can sign up for the 30-minute reading in the description or in the chat. We could do that another time. But yeah. All right. Soretta, yes, I'm currently speaking to a Capricorn man who's interested in getting into a committed relationship. Then he disappeared after his trip. Can I get clarity on his intentions? Okay, yeah, that's much more specific. Thank you. So basically the question is, how is the Capricorn guy feeling about yeah, so there's a couple questions there. Are you more interested in getting a sense for how he's feeling, or more for getting a sense for like how to orient toward love in general? And if for anyone else who's tuned in, feel free to just put your questions in the chat and I will get to them eventually. So Soretta, just let me know which question you feel like more would be most helpful to address, because his actions. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull a card. So we'll have a card in case someone else asks a similar question. And the card I pulled is Death. So I'll just say I wouldn't get your hopes up over him reaching out again, but let's look at the chart and get a sense for that. All right. So, okay. So now we are looking at the chart, and when we interpret a horary chart, the ascendant represents the questioner. And in this chart, the ascendant is in Capricorn. And don't worry about connecting the placements with your placements or his placements right now. That's kind of another issue. Maybe no relevance at all. But so we look at the ruler of the ascendant. In this case, Capricorn rising. It's Saturn is the ruler. And Saturn currently in the sky, but soon to retrograde back into Pisces. Its condition will change, but its dignity, it's not doing very well in the temple of Mars in the sign of Aries. And so, coming with this question, maybe you've been experiencing some anxiety and just kind of hurt. Obviously, it sounds kind of like being ghosted. And we'll look at the 7th house to get a sense for the person that the querent is asking about. So the Capricorn guy that you're talking about is ruled by the moon. Venus and Jupiter are there, and maybe in the last week, Venus and Jupiter in the sky made a conjunction last Monday, and so maybe there was a lot of kind of idealism and hope around this possible connection because it was just sort of in the air, this sort of almost like very romantic, almost too good to be true kind of energy. Now they're starting to separate, and the moon is currently in aversion to Venus and Jupiter. So there's there's a way in which like his emotional state isn't maybe congruent with what was represented or at that time, and there's like maybe a kind of intellectualizing of the whole situation, and there's soon to be a square from the moon to your ruler Saturn, and so I wouldn't, yeah, again, I wouldn't expect to, even if you do hear from him, I wouldn't expect it to be a favorable outcome. And sorry to say, but let me know if there's any further, like, specifics that we could work with to, like, elaborate further. But the moon, aside from signifying him because it rules Cancer, so it rules the 7th house, it also typically is taken as a co-signifier for the person asking the question. And when we look at horary charts, we imagine the planets like eventually moving forward. So the moon eventually, if we imagine just project into the future, it's going to enter into the sign of Cancer and conjoin Jupiter, and then conjoin Venus. And so, as they put it, carry the light of Jupiter on to Venus. So it would almost be like a kind of repetition of the almost like too good to be true romantic energy of last week when Venus and Jupiter made their conjunction, because the moon will pass over Jupiter and then bring Jupiter's light back to Venus. So I wouldn't, there's a possibility that maybe within the month that you encounter another person who, you start to have similar hopeful feelings about with respect to a possible relationship. Okay, let me read what you said. He wanted to get engaged. He has ADHD, so I wasn't so sure. He wanted to... Okay, so have you tried texting him, Soretta? You just haven't heard from him, right? Oh, he disappeared. Oh, so a different guy. More interested in an Aries man than the Capricorn. Perhaps. I'm thinking, like, how could we look at this? No, because he said he would speak to me once he's back. Oh, so you haven't reached out to him. Okay. Well, maybe you should try reaching out to him. Yeah, I think, you're the ruler of the ascendant, which represents you, the questioner, Saturn, is in a position of disempowerment. And it's, as I mentioned, well, I was mentioning this before you arrived. Yeah. Well, I would say that if you are genuinely interested in him and you just want to see, it wouldn't hurt to just reach out, because just looking at the ascendant, it's in the bound of Jupiter, and Jupiter's in his 7th house. So I like, you can't say here that like you're really at least currently, like, at the mercy of his whim to communicate, but you could choose to reach out yourself. And eventually the ruler of the ascendant, Saturn, is going to back into Pisces in its retrograde, and Venus will eventually make a trine to that. So who knows whether it's him or someone else, maybe this Aries guy. It does seem like that at least something within the next month might brighten your horizons. But But I would also expect that maybe there will be a little disappointment, maybe with this Capricorn guy, because of drawing the card, the death card. Like there's some kind of like release, I think, that is suggested by death, like just kind of letting go of maybe what you thought things were going to be like. Doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen, but maybe it's not like what you expected. Yeah, I would say don't if it, I mean, if it resonates, like don't let the ball just be in his court around like reaching out, and then you'll know at least you tried, and you can just let it go. Sure, I'll pull one for the Aries man. All right. Greetings, fellow viewers. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. We're just working with Suretas right now. That's a good way to approach relationships. It's sometimes kind of difficult. Okay, so the card that I pulled for the Aries man is, oh well, this is quite nice. It's quite nice. The Sun. This, I would say, is a nod in his direction, that this is a more affirmative, supportive dynamic, and it makes me think of just what's happening between the Sun and Mercury right now. Mercury has just recently become morning star after being burned up in the rays of the sun, and so maybe there's like some intellectual resonance between you two, and there's also mutual. Well, the moon is in Mercury's sign, so yeah, maybe there's a kind of like balance there between like the emotional connection and also like intellectual stimulation. And but yeah, I would say if we pulled the death card for the Capricorn and the Sun for the Aries, I would give more energy to the Aries, and I hope that it works out. If you wish. What kind of conference was it that you went to? I gotta figure out how to play music while I do this, and so that y'all can hear it too. I was listening to Charlie XCX earlier. Have y'all heard of Magdalena Bay? This is them. I went to their show a year ago. It was so fun. Hey friend, new viewer, if you got a question for the Oracle, it was a summit. Interesting. It was a summit. Imagine. I don't know what that is. But if you're just arrived and you have a question for the deck, or yeah, if you have a question, put it in the chat. Horary astrology is like using the chart of the moment like you would use a tarot deck. And so we're combining that with pulling a card or two, depending on the question. Oh, that's sweet. So wait, what is a summit imagine? I don't know what that is. Yeah, I would totally go with the Aries. He just sounds sweeter. Oh, I see. Okay. So a summit is more like kind of like a corporate conference. I'm like in academia, so I don't, I'm like used to a different meaning when it comes to conference. I'm not crazy about this font. I'm gonna fix it, make it look better. I just had to whip something up soon because last week's was not a very nice display. Just moved it down a little bit because the wheel was getting cut off. Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Oh, Priya. Yes. Welcome. Once you ask the question, I'll update the chart. And okay. Actually, Priya, can you give me any further context about what Sybil is contacting you regarding? Thank you. Doing well. I hope you are too. And and is it net? And also, like, can you give me some more information about the time frame? Is it is the Oh, relationship love? Okay. Why 2 weeks? Is that something agreed upon, or is it more like will Sybil contact me at all, like in a loving context? Of course, Soretta. Thanks so much for being here. Hope you have a great day too. Good luck with everything. Yeah, once I have a bit more information, I'll go ahead and update the chart again, and we can start to speculate. Also, oh, okay. So basically, you're wondering if he is going to reach out, given the fact that your birthday is coming up and he should know that. And if he does reach out, it signifies that he is interested. Do you want like an answer based on like will he reach out at all, or will he reach out in a way that is like romantic? Because it could be that he reaches out, but it's a little bit more specific. Okay. All right. Thank you for those extra details. I'm going to go ahead and update the chart. So ascendant ruler is still in Capricorn because, we've just been in this hour. I'm going to go ahead and pull a tarot card just to kind of get some further symbolic imagery to work with aside from the chart. We have the magus, the magician. And it looks like the ascendant is in the bound of Jupiter, about to transition to Venus. And the ascendant ruler is Saturn fallen. Let me just think here for a second. I want to see. I'm going to step forward a day. Okay. Yes, I think he will reach out to you. And in the next 2 weeks, yes, I think he will reach out to you. And I think it is likely that it might not be an overt gesture of like, hey, let's get married. But I think there will be sweetness. And you might feel a little anxious in the meantime. But I think let's see. I think by September 1st, you might be feeling a little less anxious, and maybe it will be around then. When is your birthday? Sure. Well, I want to say a little bit about the card. We pulled the Magician, and the magician speaks to the agency of the querent. And so kind of similar to Saretta earlier, who was also waiting on a love interest to reach out, I would recommend that because, okay, who knows, maybe it'll be after your birthday. Maybe he or she will have forgotten, and maybe they'll reach out and be like, oh my God, I totally forgot. But before, here, let me go back. Whether it's Jupiter or Venus, the ascendant is in the bound of one of two planets that's in the seventh house. So there's a way in which you're at the mercy of you're waiting on him. But I would say, pulling this card, maybe you text him at some point in the next 2 weeks. You could try that. And now you want me to pull another card to see what he will say to you. Okay, we'll see. This could be what he says to you or what you say to him. Maybe we'll just say it's the character of the communication when there is contact made. Oh, well, in this we got the Empress, which is I would say like the Venus card in the deck. So that I think that's favorable, that there will be some reciprocated feelings or sweetness. Whether, as I was saying, pulling the Magician, suggesting maybe a bit more agency on your part to reach out, that it might end up favorable for you if you do. So I would give it a try, and please let me know what happens. You can come back here. The live streams get recorded, so you could leave a comment and let me know if it ends up sweet in the next 2 weeks, any communications between you, or if it doesn't. I'd like to know that as well. Thank you for tuning in and for asking a question. Hey, Quigleoto. Is this Quinn? Who is this? You're so welcome, Priya. I hope many blessings. I hope that the good fortune comes your way with respect to this question. You pulled the Magician today too. Cool. Quigleoto, do you have a question? You just want to talk about your tarot pool for the day? Oh yeah, and I don't know if we know each other, Quigleoto, but I'm offering free horary readings every week at the same time, Sundays from 10 to 11 Pacific time or 6 to 7 Central European time, wherever you're at relative to those. And horary astrology, if you're not familiar with it, is basically like doing the tarot but with the chart of the moment, the astrological chart of the moment. And so you can come with questions. I also have a form in the description and in the chat if anybody ever wants to have like a 30-minute birth chart reading live. So you're welcome to sign up for that if you're interested in that. There's like a whole form that requests question and the birth information, so I can get a sense ahead of time of the chart and the question. And then you could either come on Zoom. I got to figure out how to do that, but I could figure out it before next week, or just chat or voice. But anyway, that's what I'm doing here. So you're welcome to ask a question if you have one, or to just hang out and talk about the tarot. How did the Magician show up during the day for you, Quigleoto? Maybe you haven't had much of a day yet because it's still morning for you. I don't know. Hello, Elisa. Do you have a question for the oracle? Horary astrology is what we're doing here. It's basically like using the chart of the moment as you would like a tarot deck. And I also have tarot cards here because we're working with a very similar chart throughout the hour. It gets a little different, complexifies over the course of the hour because the bound ruler changes. I'm interested in a guy. I want to know how he feels towards me despite not being close with each other. His name is Luca. Okay, great. So the question is, I would like to know. Great. Okay. Yeah, I will combine astrology and the tarot. I would like to know how he feels toward me, Luca. Interesting. Well, yeah, no pressure. Quiglioto, you don't need to have a question. Feel free to share more about how you're thinking the magician upright and the high priestess reversed is coming through for you. I'm going to go ahead and cast the chart for Elisa. So the question is, how does Luca feel about Elisa? All right. All right, Elisa. So are y'all chatting? How are things? Oh, you said you're not being close with each other. What do you mean? When you say you're not close with each other, what does that mean? I'm going to actually add these cards back to the deck. So how do you know, Luca? Are y'all like in the same town? Feel free to share any more details. It's not like necessary to get, like an answer because we already cast the chart, but it helps to. We're in no contact right now. It's a bit complicated. Oh, I see. Okay. You know each other online. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to pull a card that represents you. He's from a different... okay. A card that represents you, a card that represents him, and then a card that represents how he feels about you. So we'll kind of get a sense. He's from from Italy. Okay, cool. So this is the card that represents you. We have the Wheel of Fortune. And then the card that represents him, the Tower. Is he going through something kind of intense right now, like a big change in his life? And then whereas you're kind of like maybe a bit more, you're also in a moment of change, but it's maybe a little bit less intense and crazy for you, and you're a bit more like along for the ride and open to what life will bring you, the Wheel of Fortune. And then how he feels about you, the Hermit. Seems like maybe he's like needing to take some time for himself for some reason. Now let's look at the chart. So we have the whole hour is Capricorn rising, representing the person asking the question. We have Saturn fallen in Aries, not the easiest place for Saturn to be. Actually, it's one of the hardest places for Saturn to be. So you might associate that with just some discomfort with respect to the question. Saturn soon, though, Saturn is in retrograde and will eventually be moving back into Pisces, a water sign, and Venus is moving ahead in Cancer, a water sign, and will eventually make a trine to Saturn retrograde. So I think of that as favorable. I think that and we could pull a clarifier card for the Hermit for like how he feels about you. I feel like from what I'm seeing, also the ascendant is in the bound of Venus, and Venus is in the 7th house conjunct the descendant. That I would say that he probably does have warm feelings towards you, like affectionate feelings towards you. But that it's not going to be for a little bit that he will be able to express those, but that it is likely that he will eventually. And it's more, you might just kind of keep doing your thing, and it's more like him that has to make the movement. But it might happen sooner than you expect. Let me think also. Yeah, and the moon will come and, well, actually, the moon will make that trine later on. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. I can pull one more clarifier card if you'd like, for how is he feeling about me, so we could complexify it a little bit more. But if you feel satisfied with that answer, we can just let it go, let it be there. If you're just arriving, feel free and have a question for the oracle, for the deck, or for the stars. Feel free to put it in the chat. Yeah, I would say, okay. So we'll just pull another card and see what it says. We pulled the star. And so you just expressed that you have this wish. I associate the star with a wish, with like wishes that could come true. So have you not have you been holding back from reaching out to him? So maybe to complexify it a little bit more, the descendant is in the bound of Mercury. Yeah, he better wake up. Well, maybe we have a sign that he's waking up, and that the descendant is in the bound of Mercury, and Mercury has just become morning star. I would say that's like it's emerging from invisibility in the beams of the sun, and it's in mutual reception with the moon. So there's like this possibility of articulating, and maybe he just needed some time to like think about things. I don't know what's going on, because remember, we pulled the tower for him. Sounds like something difficult. He's experiencing something difficult in his life. But yeah, I would say, I mean, as I've suggested to the others, go ahead and just, express that, and no more holding back. It actually, it does kind of make sense that we've had this theme. All like three people who have asked about relationship issues have all been waiting and holding back. And you've all been ruled by Saturn in retrograde in a fallen state, in a difficult position. But within the next 2 weeks, Saturn's going to back into Pisces. And so it won't be fallen anymore for the remainder of its time in Pisces. So things, I would say, are probably going to shift in the next 2 weeks. But it might require some kind of courageous self-expression on your part. And I feel like it might have a favorable outcome, because Saturn, once it backs into Pisces, its ruler will be Jupiter, and there will be a nice connection being made. You're welcome. I'm glad it feels resonant, and I hope that you get what you are hoping for with him. But I think that there will be a favorable relationship between Saturn and Jupiter within the next 2 weeks, when Saturn backs into Pisces. Jupiter will be Saturn will be in Jupiter's sign, and Jupiter's really happy right now in its exaltation. So maybe he'll be feeling good and just in a better state soon as well. Many blessings. Greetings, friends. If you're just tuning in, I'm here for 9 more minutes, working with horary questions, basically like using astrology like you would the tarot deck. I also have some tarot cards here to kind of complexify the symbolism, since we are just working in the span of an hour and the chart doesn't change much, but it kind of depends on the question. Because if we get a question about career, for instance, we'll look at a different part of the chart. But if we get another relationship question, the chart might have moved into another bound, and we can always pull tarot cards. So feel free to put your question in the chat if you have one, and I will work with it if it's possible. If you're interested in having a free birth chart reading for 30 minutes on a future live stream, you can sign up at the form in the description or in the chat, and I'll email you eventually if we've got all the information necessary to work with. Anybody got a question? Anybody there? Crickets. Crickets, crickets. Stretching out my legs. Speaking without the microphone connected. If you've just arrived and you have a question for the oracle, for the chart of the moment as well, I am taking your questions for the next 5 minutes. You could ask about love, you could ask about career, you could ask about a move, you could ask about all kinds of things. And if you're interested in having a free natal chart reading, there's a form in the description that you can sign up at. Sign up. And come on the live stream. If you're just here, like, just tuning in and don't have a question, you could just say hi. It's nice to know who's present, especially if I know you. You know what I have stuck in my head? I have that Click song by Charlie XCX stuck in my head. It's so good. Oh, clock is ticking down. All right, well, 3 minutes is probably not enough time for another one. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out. Thanks to anyone who is still present and tuned in, and to anyone who watches this in the future. I'm going to close out as I started with the verse from Rudolf Steiner's Calendar of the Soul, which traces the spiritual process that is the light cycle of the year from the Northern Hemisphere. So week 18 goes, "Can I make wide my soul so that it grows together with word of worlds in seed conceived? My intuition speaks the need for strength, strength to shape my soul worthy, to make of it a vessel for the Spirit." Because we are bringing the light from the heights of summer solstice into the depths. I wish you all a great week.